In the late 1800s, before the Northern War caught up to the last true cowboys, there was a gang that rode through legends, noble in speech, ruthless in actions, and doomed by ideology. They weren't just outlaws, they were a family, until everything fell apart. This is the complete story of the Dutch Vanderlyn gang from Red Dead Redemption 2. Before the Pinkertons, before Blackwater, before the Betrayals, there was Dutch Vanderlyn, a man who fancied himself a philosopher, a revolutionary, and a thief with a dream. You see, Dutch wasn't born into wealth or privilege. He built his following through charm, wit, and a vision. Freedom from the tyranny of civilization, not clip farming. He believed the government was corrupt, the rich were parasites, and the law was a lie. In the eyes of many, he was Robin Hood, but in reality, he was far more complicated. Dutch's dream would later become his curse, because freedom, when twisted by fear and ego, turns into chaos. And no one embodied Dutch's vision more than Arthur Morgan. Arthur was taken in by Dutch and Hosea as a boy, raised not just to shoot but to think, a hardened enforcer with the soul of a poet. He killed, he robbed, and fought for the gang, but deep inside, he was always searching for meaning. And when Arthur was diagnosed with tuberculosis, everything changed. He began to see things clearly and realized that Dutch was no longer the man who raised him. This version of Dutch was blinded by greed, power, and paranoia. Arthur's redemption wasn't in the money, it was the choices he made at the end, trying to save John, protect Abigail, and warn Sadie. Arthur died not as a killer, but as a man, a hero, and a legend. Before there was ever a gang, there was Hosea, Dutch's closest friend, and in many ways his brother. Hosea wasn't just a schemer, he was a pacifier, a thinker, and a strategist. He didn't believe in killing needlessly, he wanted one last job, then peace. Hosea saw Dutch's descent firsthand. He warned him, but he stayed loyal. Maybe for the same reason Arthur Morgan did, because deep down, he hoped Dutch would come back to his senses. But when Hosea died in Saint Denis, executed by Pinkertons due to Dutch's recklessness, it wasn't just the loss of a man, it was the death of Dutch's soul. You see, every tragedy needs a villain, and Micah Bell was the snake in the grass. No, he was a rat. Violent, cowardly, manipulative, and cowardly. Micah whispered all the wrong things in Dutch's ear. He stoked his paranoia, fed his ego. He promised Dutch power, not peace, and Dutch listened. To be honest, I spent hours researching if Micah and Dutch were in some sort of relationship, because for the life of me, I couldn't understand Micah's hold on Dutch. And even when Arthur begged him to see the truth, Dutch couldn't let Micah go. It was Micah's betrayal that ultimately fractured the gang. When everything came crashing down, only a few stood tall. John Marston, once the reckless outlaw, became a father, a rancher, a man given a second chance by Arthur Morgan himself. Abigail fought like a mad she-wolf to protect her son. She endured abuse, abandonment, and war, and still never gave up on John through thick and thin. Sadie Adler, who had lost her husband in the game's opening moments, rose from tragedy, hardened by vengeance, and was transformed into a gunslinger and a bounty hunter feared across the entire West. These three would carry on Arthur's legacy. The gang weren't just all killers, it was also filled with hopefuls. Jack Marston, a child which represented everything they claimed to be fighting for, a better life. His innocence became the gang's last link to a dream that was long gone. Lenny Summers was the idealistic, brilliant, loyal gun who was killed way too soon, while Jacksepticeye, Sean Maguire, was reckless but beloved. His death in the ambush tore down the gang spirits, and Tilly Jackson was one of the few to escape the cycle early, living the outlaw life behind. They were the future extinguished by the past. When the gang split, lines were drawn. Bill Williamson, who was once a soldier and loyal thug, fell in with Micah, the rat. Javier Escuela, the ever-loyal, couldn't see the truths and followed Dutch down south. Uncle, the drunk, the joke, the walking lumbago, turned out to be one of the few who stayed by John's side until the very end. And Charles Smith, the warrior poet, became Arthur's greatest ally, noble, wise, and ultimately the one who helps John reclaim peace. The story of the Vanderlyn gang isn't about outlaws, it's about how ideals can become obsessions, how family becomes a battlefield, and how even the most noble of dreams can rot from the inside. Dutch wanted freedom, but he lost his way. Arthur wanted redemption and found it just before he died. And through it all, The world changed, the old ways died, and the West was never the same. Please, if you enjoyed this video, kindly hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and hit the notification bell icon so you can get notified when I drop new videos like this, as I am desperately trying to hit 1K subscribers by the end of this year. And until next time, peace and love.
Incredible.